save yourself time and heartache in your relationships, and also improve the overall quality of your relationships, you need to get better at having uncomfortable conversations. Really what I mean when I say that is I need to get better at having uncomfortable conversations. Because even though when push comes to shove, I can have the conversation, even though when I recognize not even a toxic relationship, but a negative relationship or a negative quality person who I've started to build a relationship with and then realize that they're not someone that I should have in my life, I'm not great at having those conversations quickly upon realizing I need to, and I'm also not great about how I approach those conversations. I'm not great at starting them. I don't know the best way to kind of bring it up, not even gingerly, but with tact and without coming across as aggressive. I have a severity in the way I talk, I've learned since coming to the real world. And one of the things about that is that I tend to be very direct. And part of it's that I think part of it is that I don't necessarily know what the proper way to approach these conversations is. You know, kind of say, like, listen, I have enjoyed our time together. Whatever, like that's the thing. I don't love the kind of mealy-mouthed mea culpas or just the things that we say that are maybe white lies to kind of get someone to just be comfortable and to kind of get their guard down. I'm like, I know I'm doing something that's not going to be pleasant, so I'm okay with if your guard is up. And so often I just kind of abruptly sort of blurt out what it is that I need to say so that it's done, kind of rip the Band-Aid off. Well, part of the issue with that is knowing that I'm not great at having and starting these conversations is that I will avoid these conversations and delay them, or even if I'm trying to be nice about it, instead of abruptly blurting it out clearly and concisely, what I will do is I will buttress the severity of it by putting maybes or one days or other qualifiers that encourage people to have hope where there is none, I guess you could say, or think that something is one way when really it is the other way, and the other way that it is over or finished or complete or done. And so I'll walk away from a situation sometimes thinking like, all right, all done with that, nothing left to do, and then, you know, a week or a couple weeks will go by and I'll encounter that person again. They'll call me, they'll text me, they'll whatever, and we have to kind of rehab this conversation because I wasn't clear enough in my statements to make them realize the end is nigh, sort of, so to speak. And so if you can get good at having these uncomfortable conversations, what it will do is, one, it will save you a lot of time because you'll be able to have the conversation when you know you need to have it, and you'll be able to have it clearly and concisely, and you'll preserve maybe not the relationship, but you'll preserve maybe some positive feelings that someone has towards you, instead of them wanting to write you off and say, you know, screw that person, they're bad, they're evil, they're whatever. If you're good at having those conversations, they might say, you know, like, they had whatever hang-ups they had, and, you know, maybe I have my hang-ups with them, and we're going to move on, and maybe one day we can come around and we can be friends or co-workers or family again in a positive and fruitful way. And one of the things about having these uncomfortable conversations is if you know you need to have them, and even if you don't necessarily know consciously, if you sort of subconsciously know you need to have some uncomfortable conversations, that's going to create a lot of emotional stress in your life. It's going to cause you to have a worse attitude than you otherwise would, even if you feel totally fine in a given moment, and you're just thinking, oh, whatever, I'm, you know, feeling great, it's been a good day so far, blah, blah, blah. But then if you're all of a sudden snippy with someone, or you're very confrontational about something that doesn't need to be confrontational about, or you're overly sarcastic and even sardonic to people who are your friends, when you reflect on it, one of the things you might realize is like, oh, like I'm carrying some emotional baggage that I need to address. One of the ways to address that emotional baggage is to have the uncomfortable conversation that maybe up till now you didn't realize you didn't have until you reflected on it. And so, how do we get better at these uncomfortable conversations? That's probably something I need to look up a little bit. Getting better at these uncomfortable conversations so that I can have them, make them clear and concise to achieve whatever the goal is of the conversation, to end a relationship, to reform a relationship, to maybe fire a shot across someone's bow to say, like, listen, I'm not trying to end this relationship, but in order to continue this relationship, we need to set some boundaries. I need to stop seeing a behavior or start seeing a behavior, or I need to not speak to you anymore, kind of thing. I'm not great at that, so I need to reflect on that and figure out some ways to improve that. Maybe that's a good goal for this part of the year, you know. Think about how to maintain my relationships, having these uncomfortable conversations. And so but if you are good at having those conversations, what it means is that you're going to be able, whether it's in your business or in your personal life, your family, in just your day-to-day interactions, you're going to be better at setting appropriate boundaries with people and enforcing those boundaries and removing the people from your life who do not respect those boundaries and who seem to refuse to acknowledge that you even have them potentially. And that's going to save you a lot of heartache, both like consciously, where you have a conversation, you hang out with someone and you're done and you're just like, wow, that was a long day of hanging out with them, even if it was only an hour or two. Or you're going to drop a lot of subconscious or even unconscious weight that you don't realize you have bearing on your shoulders. And you're going to be a more pleasant person. You're going to have more internal peace. This is something I struggle with a lot. One of the reasons why I'm trying to pay off what little debt we have, because I want the peace of not having that debt. But there's also relationships, and there's things people expect of me that, you know, I kind of volunteered for because I'm the guy that's quick to take a responsibility on. And I think I need to drop some of these responsibilities. And the thing holding me back with a couple of these things is that it feels bad. It sucks to say, right? Like, hey, I know I said I would do this thing, I would carry this weight, but actually carrying this weight is not something I want to do, but it's also not something that's been good for me or my family or my peace at 9 or 10 at night, sitting in bed, doom scrolling on my phone because I don't want to acknowledge that, like, there's this thing that I kind of said I would do that I have no desire to do. I don't want to do it, but I'm avoiding doing it because I said I would. And, you know, when I was younger and singler and had a more predictable life and more structured life, taking on those responsibilities didn't create so much hassle for me, because I was like, living my life, doing my thing, I'm going to take on these extra responsibilities at this time when I have the time, and I'm going to do it. Now, having a much less structured life, I've actually found that it's more of a weight to carry, because theoretically I could spend 6 hours a day working on some of these sort of ancillary projects or responsibilities I've taken on. So it's eliminated the box that I'm able to keep that mental load in and just stick it off to the side. I don't think about it until Thursday at 6 p.m. or I don't think about it until Friday after work, you know, like I used to be able to do when I had a more structured job. I can say, oh yeah, I'm not thinking about these things for this week at all, or maybe I only think about these things on this day and this time for this period of time. And then when that period's over, I don't think about it anymore until the next scheduled time to think about it. And one of it is I don't have the ability to to give that bandwidth to anyone. So, yeah, let's get better at having our uncomfortable conversations in the near future so we can put some of these emotional and mental loads down.